Hello, Assembly 2020 online people. We're here at the Finnish Museum of Games in Vierailee, Tampere, and I wanted to show you some of the new things that we have at the museum this year, also interview a few people about the exhibits, and just generally give you a short tour of some of the things. Some of you may have already been here at the museum and seen it, but despite the fact that the exhibition is more or less static, we have a cross-section of games from Finland, from the present day up until the 1800s and even beyond that. We also change some things every year. We take out some games, put in some new ones to keep it fresh and also to keep you coming back, of course. And as you can see, this year's special protocol is that you wear the gloves while operating the games, and usually you're also required to wear a mask, which I'm not doing right now because I'm talking to you. But let's start off with the first game that we have here, the first digital one. And this year it's Baba Is You from 2019. So when you think about the concept of a museum and then a game from last year, that might be unconventional, but our idea is to show the progress of games and game development in Finland, and from the earliest steps up until the very latest. And so we keep fairly recent games here in the first section. Baba Is You started out as a sort of a jam game. We'll get to game jams later on, but it's this sort of retro aesthetic logic puzzle where you need to change the rules of the game to win the level. So for example, if you have the rule flag is win, then you need to touch the flag to win the game or the level. And you move around the level, you change things until you get the desired rule set. So that's a fun thing that we have here, playable. And also we have some concept art from the game, from Arvi Teikari, the author. He's done some watercolor paintings that you can view. And that's one of the nice things we have here at the museum, is that the authors have loaned or donated some very unique items from the development of the game. These range from concept art to items to even the computer that was used to develop the game. So those are nice, very nice things to look at. But you can play Baba here at the museum. You could read about its past, of course, and do lots of other things, and we'll take a look at some of the other things now. Then we have a game for the Mega Drive, the Sega Mega Drive from 2018 called Double Cooked. And as you can see, it has some very pretty retro graphics, which you would expect from this platform. But the interesting part about this one is that it's a game jam game. And I have game researcher Elina Koskinen from the University of Tampere here with me, and she is also involved with the Finnish Game Jam organization.
Yes.
So Elina, can you briefly explain to me what is a game jam?
So, Game Jam is an event where people make games in a limited time, and people who participate in these kinds of events can be professional game developers, but they can also be hobbyists, students, and people who have never made games before. So this is an opportunity to try out making games.
Mm-hmm. And you say limited time. How limited is it actually?
It depends, but usually, at least when we have been organizing events, it's like one weekend. So basically 48 hours when you make this game.
So that's not a lot of time. And you basically start from scratch.
Yes.
And you don't even know the type of game that you're going to be making. Is this so?
Yeah. Like usually the theme might be revealed when the jam begins. Sometimes it might be the topic of the jam might be told also beforehand, but there might be this surprise element as well.
And there's usually no limitation on the technology used or the platform, or?
Yeah, it depends on the jam. Often there's no limitation, but there are also very specific, like platform-specific jams.
And how old is this scene? Because of course we're talking about the demo scene that goes back to the 1980s. But when was the when did the jams scene start?
At least Global Game Jam was organized for the first time in 2009, and 1 year later here in Finland we also took part in that event.
So it's been about 10 years
Yes.
now. Yeah, very nice. So of course these are often like the way they come out. The games are prototypes. I know this because we had a jam game before, and that didn't actually work all the time. It was a very nice game, but it had some glitches. So are there commercial games that are grown from these jam beginnings?
Yes, I can mention a couple of examples from Finland. One is Baba Is You. Well, that was actually made in Nordic Game Jam, so not in Finland, but the maker is Finnish, Arvi Teikari. I believe the game is here in the museum
It's over
as
there.
well.
Yeah, we actually started there, but I didn't talk too much about it because I thought we were coming back to that anyway. So
Yeah, that one. I think it won the Nordic Game Jam back in 2017, and now it's a official full game you can buy from Steam. And then another example from Finland is this game called Flu Season by Twisted Arc. I think that was made in Global Game Jam back in 2018. But there are also very famous examples from around the world, like maybe most known for starting as a Game Jam game is this game called Surgeon Simulator. But there are also famous games like Super Hot and Celeste and Broforce that they all originate to Game Jams actually.
Yeah, so I've heard of Surgeon Simulator and seen that because it was absolutely crazy with the way you were trying to carry out an operation in an environment that was completely unsuitable for it, using tools and controls that were not very well suited. So say I wanted to become involved in the Game Jam scene.
Yeah.
How would I do that?
You can either contact my organization, Finnish Game Jam organization, or you can try to find out if in your area there are game jams going, and you can contact those people. But we can, if you don't know about anyone, we can at least tell you who might be working on game jams in your area.
And also, what is the required level of expertise if you want to get started? What do you need to know?
In organizing or jamming?
To participate?
To participate. It depends on the jam, but at least all the jams we are basically organizing, you can come up without any knowledge. You can always do something, even though you wouldn't have programming skills or graphic skills yet.
Yeah. And of course, you can work with graphics and sound and things like that, or just do the concept design and so on.
And there are many very easy tools you can start with, even though you wouldn't have experience on a specific thing yet.
I also recently heard that there was something called a Pride Game Jam just about a month ago or so.
Yes.
What's that about?
Pride Game Jam, it's a new concept for us. We haven't organized it before. We hopefully organize it in the future as well. We try to have these jams with different topics to include different kinds of people to bring their ideas to the game jams. And also we want to have different sorts of events because we have these people who have game jamming as a hobby. They also enjoy that they can participate different kinds of events from different kinds of angles. And we want to be very inclusive and foster different kinds of game jammers. So I guess we want to say that anyone can jam, and we want all people who want to jam and make games to have a place to do that. So that's why we have these kind of jams like Pride Jam and also Quantum Game Jam, where quantum physicists and game developers came together and made games about quantum, and also Sami Game Jam. Yeah, these are topics.
Nice. I also heard that there was a jam on a train.
Yes.
Was it in the United States or?
I think that was in the United States.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, because the train is usually it's a nice working environment regardless of what you're doing. So
yeah,
that would be fun to have in Finland sometime.
Yeah, I think we have tried to make that happen, but not yet. Not yet.
Cool. Yeah, thanks very much, Elina.
Thank you.
This was very valuable, and the game Double Cooked is available for testing, and it runs on the Analog Mega SG, which is a very exact reproduction of a Mega Drive, and you can come and try it out and find out that it's extremely difficult. But a fun game wherein I think the team started with the idea that these the buttons on the Mega Drive controller, they look like frying pans. I don't know who came up with that, but yeah, I'll allow it. And then you have to cook meals for the cartoon characters here, and you use the buttons to flip over the. I think I tried this and I managed to score 20 points without really even getting the idea. But you press up and then you feed the character. So you have to cook them. You can turn them, and then you need to feed, but they need to be requesting the food, I think.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, me neither. But now the fish guy ate the thing. But the cat wants to eat a person. What's that even about?
Maybe it's a blueberry, I hope.
It has a face.
Yeah.
That's not a blueberry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on how the thing works. But anyway, we provide like short instructions for all the games. In some they are more helpful than in others, but yeah. You can move the food, and now it's the hedgehog has been properly cooked. Now just someone needs to want the. Yeah, you can throw away food that's not wanted by anyone. Now the horse lady wants this food. Now she got it, and I got some points. And now there's a blue face.
They don't want anything of mine.
Yeah, this is suitably crazy. Yeah, but I really like the graphics. This is very nice for
it is.
Especially for such a short development period. It's impressive. But of course, I would assume that like in demos, you have the party version and you have the release version, and sometimes the games are polished afterwards.
Yeah.
But of course they're not redone entirely.
Yeah. True.
I'm slightly concerned about the eating the animals thing, but
or the heads.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, which is worse. You need to press up when the. Yeah, you need to press up with the button. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I'm just like winging it. I have no idea what I'm doing.
I think everything just disappears what I get.
Yeah, and then you can move. I think you can move the food like to the left and the right, and then you can put it in the bin. If nobody wants it. Yeah, and that shows you the next item.
Yeah, that part I got, but everything else is.
Collectively, we've already found out a lot about this game.
Yeah. I don't know how to move the foods. I push this button, but nothing happens.
You need to press the button and then push the direction.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, now I got it. Oh, that's complicated. Okay, now I got something to the trash, but I don't know if that's the goal.
You need to discard food. Yeah, here's an idea for a game: the food waste management simulator.
Yes.
For the next jam.
Yes.
You could do that on the Dreamcast, so you get a full set of Sega things. Okay, this is fun.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to understand, but it's fun. Yeah. The museum also has a video arcade, and that's one of my favorite places because a lot of these machines, they spent some part of their lives in my garage waiting for a proper place to put them and somewhere where people could enjoy them, and now finally they are here. And we also changed the arcade machines around a bit. We take out some older ones to maintain them and then put in new ones. And this time we've taken out a massive cabinet called Top Landing, which is due for a major overhaul, and we've replaced it with a couple of other interesting games. These are from Sega. We have Afterburner and Turbo Outrun. And Afterburner, or this is actually Afterburner 2 because it's an update. So it's this super scaling, very high speed fighter jet action thing that's almost too quick for anyone's reflexes, but it's great fun once you finally get the hang of it. And this is the type of thing that you could only experience in the arcades in the 1980s. This was not doable on any of the home computer hardware, and that's what made it so fascinating. And then Turbo Outrun is a sort of a sequel to Outrun, which we also have as a deluxe sit-down cabinet wonderful thing. But Turbo Outrun is a slightly different game because in Outrun you had the branching routes. You could choose your own route throughout the levels, wherein you always raced 5 in total. But in Turbo Outrun, there's a linear path. You race across the United States, and you are now driving a Ferrari F40 instead of the Testarossa in the original game, and you have a turbo button which you can use until the car overheats. Then you have to wait for a while. And also now there's a rival. There's a guy in a Porsche 959 racing you and trying to beat you to your destination. It uses more or less the same technology. You can actually update an Outrun to Turbo Outrun and vice versa. But it's a fairly different game. Not to everyone's taste, but it's fun. If you're not expecting it to be just another Outrun, it's a slightly different experience. To the right of that, we have one of the 2 arcade machines built in Finland. This is the RAY 1000. There was also a 2000, but this is the 1000. Very iconic, beautifully designed red cabinet. And so this was designed and built in Finland to meet the need for video arcade games in the late 80s, because it was becoming sort of cost prohibitive to keep changing the games at the locations all the time, because the players were getting bored, the turnover was decreasing. So the decision was made to build like a modular system where you could switch the games to keep it fresh for the players. This is of course something that was done all over the world, but in Finland we had these red cabinets, and it features a system wherein you have this briefcase with your game, and it contains everything you need to just quickly swap it over so it can become another game. And the Finnish touch to it is that while the games are original, or some of them are bootleg, but anyway, they are the original English arcade games, the names have been localized. So for example, Bomb Jack became Lepakkomies, which translates to Batman. And there's a huge list of these, and some of them are quite amusing. But the unfortunate thing is that although they built quite a few of these, most of them were destroyed because the Finnish Slot Machine Association had the monopoly on coin-operated games at that time, and they couldn't sell them out, or didn't want to, in order to keep the competition out. And only a handful have survived, even though there were hundreds of these cabinets. But we were lucky to receive one from Lasse Päkkönen, who had restored the cabinet, kept it, and he loaned it to the museum, and now everyone can enjoy it here and see what Lepakkomies is about. At one end of the museum we have the studio space, which houses the changing non-permanent exhibitions. And at this time we have an exhibition known as Old Board Game Treasures. And I have researcher Niklas Nylund from the museum here with me. And actually by the time this comes out, I think you have defended your doctorate thesis, so congratulations.
Thank you.
What can you tell me about the exhibition? What's the theme, and what do we have here?
Well, this is a changing exhibition at the Finnish Museum of Games. We have 6 board games here, which are on loan from the National Library of Finland. They're historical games, so the oldest one is from 1879, and the newest one is from 1975. The themes of the games are kind of varied. There's everything from sort of exploration-themed games to games about the radio, or games about computers or space or war. So it's quite a varied selection.
Yeah, something that might not be like apparent to current players is that games used to be sort of news as well. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's an interesting thing. Games in the 19th century and the early 20th century were clearly a news item. So they were published on the side of newspapers, sort of maybe collaborating with the content in the newspapers, but they were much more visual, because in the newspapers of the time it was mainly text, black and white text. It was really difficult to get pictures, even photographs into the newspapers of the time. So these board games, which were made with a very different technique, with a sort of stone pressing technique, etching technique, could have like many colors, very big boards, etc. So they were a very visual sort of complementary content to the newspapers.
Yeah, and isn't it so that we were sort of also crossing into the realm of the fake news? Because, for example, the game Nordenskiöld's Northeast Passage, the game, it went to print before the exploration had completed, because it talks about an exploration trip, an expedition.
Yes, that's completely true. So the game Nordenskiöld Koillisväylä, Nordenskiöld's Northeast Passage in English, deals with the explorer Nordenskiöld's trip around Asia and Europe on his famous exploration trip, and it was a very big news item at the time. So most newspapers were following this, and the interesting thing is that well, as we now know, the expedition got stuck in the ice in the North Sea for more than half a year, and during that time somebody from the ship went out with a dog sled through Siberia and all the way through Russia, and then finally to Finland and Sweden with the sort of reports they had, and some pictures from the ships being stuck in the ice, and some explanations of the journey so far. And these were then printed in various newspapers as stories, very long stories about what the expedition had come across, and they were also made into a game. And the game is on display here in the museum. And the interesting thing about the game is that the sort of last journey of the trip is not based on any actual events, and it goes quite far into sort of fictional territory. So the player who is sort of representing Nordenskiöld in the game might get married to a Japanese princess in the game, and events like this, which had nothing to do with the actual expedition.
That's really interesting. So that's one end of the spectrum, and then when we look at the other end, we have something like Minilooppi, which is a computer game, but it's not a computer game. It's a game about a computer, to be more precise. So it's sort of a programming exercise, isn't it?
Well, kind of a very simple programming exercise, where sort of kind of in the way of the Kimball and the other simple board games, players put their play pieces on the board map. But it's also kind of interesting how it's kind of part of the domestication of technology, how we talk about these games, how they're understood in the homes. So this is clearly sort of, it's kind of a pedagogical tool for understanding the concepts behind programming, but also maybe in a wider scale, a way for people at home to understand what computers actually are.
Yeah, and this is, I think, for me personally, being born in the 1970s, I initially understood board games as a pastime for children mainly, but this has not been the case. Like historically, there's some sort of shift that happened.
Yeah, well, there's many different kinds of examples, and some of them are clearly made for adults in the 19th century, in the 20th century. So we have board games with quite heavy topics like for example war or sort of understanding computing, and yeah, war was a very common topic in games, and it was clearly sort of presented in a way that it wasn't probably the games weren't probably made for children. They were made for an adult audience, or maybe a mixed audience, to better understand what was going on. So we have examples from the Civil War of Finland, 1918. So in the same year, a game, or actually two games in Finland, were published. Or the First World War, when it started in 1914, in Finland there was a board game published about it.
Yeah, that feels like, in a way it feels strange. On the other hand, you now have like these computer games coming out fairly rapidly after something happens, and even about an ongoing conflict. You might have something in a Call of Duty, say,
Yes.
about a conflict that's ongoing. So it's not like that far-fetched, even though initially you might think, I think it is, but...
Yeah, and I think it's mainly a kind of disturbing idea for some, because it kind of mixes pleasure and very dark themes, deaths and war with each other. And some people might think that those kind of don't mix. But then again, if we think so, I think we underestimate the power of games to be a tool to understand the world, to explain things to players and other people as well.
And of course, no visit to a museum would be complete without some Amiga. And we've built a small corner here, which resembles a hacker's room from the mid-90s. And we have the Amiga 1200, which to me personally is the best computer ever. And it's loaded with demos, some games, and we've purposely made it so that if you're into this sort of thing, you enjoy the old demos, the old games, you can find quite a few of them on here with the instructions on screen and so on. And we also have some stuff from the early assembly events. Here's the map for 1995. We have the 94 assembly CD-ROM and also rules and schedule from 1995. So the event has come a long way since then, and now of course this year it's completely different, but it will be a physical event again. And up here we have a couple of screens where we have PC demos and Amiga demos running in a loop, so you can take your time and watch those. And why is this? Of course, it's because the demo scene, it was instrumental in creating the Finnish gaming development scene. A lot of the companies have some sort of roots in the demo scene. A lot of the programmers, graphic artists, musicians have at some point in their careers tinkered with the demo scene stuff. So we wanted to make a tribute to these people and what they helped create, because without the demo scene, the Finnish gaming scene would be different. Not saying that it wouldn't exist, but it would be different, and the demo scene has given the industry a lot of great talent, for which we salute you.